Welcome to another episode of the Learning to Choose podcast, episode 2 with Amber Tollefson. I'm your host, arts advocate, community builder, creative entrepreneur, and author behind Learning to Choose, Evan Snow. This new podcast series was created with the goal to discuss the stories behind pivotal choices, learning lessons, and takeaways from interesting individuals coming from various backgrounds and walks of life who have lived extraordinary lives. For more information on Learning to Choose and our author and host, you can log on to www.learningtochoose.com. Today, our guest is Amber Tollefson, the founding flamingo of the Flamingo House, an experiential co-working space currently located in downtown Boca Raton with plans and working plans on growth right now. She's obsessed with flamingos, the whole philosophy that flamingos do better together than they do alone, and the same with business, entrepreneurs, and other founders and other creative professionals. I can attribute to this personally and professionally as a longtime fan and supporter of the Flamingo House. It's been beautiful to watch things unfold over the last few years, and I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day today to join me on the podcast and to host our next upcoming Meet the Author event, which we'll tell them about in a little bit. But I
Thanks,
appreciate
Evan.
you taking the time today, Amber.
Thanks for having me,
My
Evan.
pleasure. It's my pleasure. It's the least I could do. You've lived certainly a very interesting life, and certainly was not the traditional straight and narrow path to get you here to the Flamingo House. So, for those that are not familiar with you, at a high level, why don't you give us a little bit of an intro as to yourself and some of the choices that you had made to get you to this point in the game right now of life?
Sure. No, I mean, I love that your book title because it's different pathways. And I must say, my life, there were definitely aha moments of different pathways. But yeah, no, I was raised on the mean streets of Boca Raton. Went to Florida State, played soccer there. We went to the Final Four. I also worked at ESPN, Miami Heat, Fox Sports Florida. I was a producer editor, and those were really pivotal years. And I'll get into. But right now, after leaving Fox Sports Florida, I had this corpreneur moment where I call it the entrepreneur slash corporate job side hustle. And you're like, do I make this leap? Right. And I left to do my own video and branding company called Document Creative. Was working out of my home office. I had 4 people out of my home, dogs barking when I'm on the phone with the client. I'm like, okay, we need a work solution. And that's where the Flamingo House was spawned. Um, yeah, so that's the quick 15-second elevator pitch of my quick story. Um, so, but a
Very,
lot of aha moments in there.
very interesting. And, this resonates with a lot of people that they're on one path in life, especially actually as it relates to sports. And, there are some paths to professional sports, there's some paths to coaching, but generally at some period of time, the curtain closes and, that sports career is over. So I guess from maybe that period after the Final Four and dabbling a little bit within sports television, what did some of those initial choices kind of look like that took you away from sports and into that corporatepreneur world?
That's a good question. So sports really laid the foundation for me, and anyone who's a student athlete knows the psychology behind sports, just discipline. I mean, I like to hire student athletes. um, Jove into sports production and was really, it sports was really everything. My very immersed in sports, and I think it's strange because there's this all of a sudden pivotal moment that I had a little universal moment, a universe moment in college where I was like, my gut was like, oh gosh, I really like that advertising professor in that class. That what he was saying and teaching, and I was like, I really liked branding and advertising, and I was like, maybe I get into advertising, but I just, I put that on hold and I went into media production because I knew when I was actually in 5th grade that I wanted to be in production. In a weird way, I always had my dad's big 1980s camera on me and editing through the old camera back in the day. So definitely a production soul. But there was now what I'm doing with video and branding and, there was a moment when I was senior promotions producer editor at Fox Sports Florida, and we're working on 360-degree marketing campaigns of the launching 4 teams at once. We had the 6 professional teams in Florida. So talk about the Heat, Rays, Lightning, Marlins, Magic, and the whole Lightning and all that. And at the same time, you're launching 4 teams, so you're really learning their marketing campaigns and strategies and how to execute, how to launch, and storytelling. And there's just a pivotal moment within that job that dream job that I had that was like, I really am enjoying the branding and the marketing execution side of this rather than the video production, which is can be tedious. You production people out there, they know what I'm throwing down there. And so really the marketing branding moment was when I left there, I opened the floodgates to a lot of hospitality marketing clients, hotels, telling the storytelling before hotels are breaking ground. So like the story is in the dirt. And and then how do we tell that story and how do we market and then brand that? And it started in like it just totally shifted from the sport world to the hospitality marketing front, which Flamingo House and co-working is in that hospitality marketing bucket too. So it was just very much like fast paced to like this not slow I mean slower, more thought out pace, I guess I would say, more intentional. So that was a pivot moment, like Ross says, pivot. Um and that was a very big pivot moment. And also just streamlining what we already do. So with the branding front, taking that and we're creating a SaaS to help streamline the branding process and what we do on the everyday daily front of design, storytelling, and how I believe that clients know their story, but they just don't know how to tell it. So we're I mean, that's 5 years in the making, and and finally we're, self-funding an MVP and getting that out. So, couple balls in the air, right? But, yeah, so that's my story. What I don't know if I answered, what was the
Nice.
other question you had there?
So I appreciate you sharing a little bit of that journey with us. And I know you've, been in the game for a few years now, and you've certainly reached a level of success and, a level of client that you're able to deal with now. Everybody starts at zero, but could you maybe share a little bit with us on just some of the learning lessons and, some of the choices that have allowed you to progress to, the level of work that you're doing today with your clients?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. How do we all level up? And that's something that was very tangible. There was a tangible moment where I believe some of that became a reality to me of basically we were working with Autograph Collection Hotels. They were which is a Marriott brand. We branded recently 5 in the Boston and New York City area, and working with the Autograph Collection Hotel and Marriott of seeing their process and being like, whoa, I mean, I think we have seems like we have a decent process. Like, and there's this shared best practices and this learnings, right? That you're going through every time you get a new client or work on a significant project. And it's a moment of you kind of have to just believe that, okay, what you are doing is of value. Where so much so where our client said, stop all interior design and architectural drawings until we have the story from them, from Amber's group. From it's like we are stopping everything until we have this story, which speaks to everything. It's kind of like a legacy asset of speaking story through the hotel, which comes in all your marketing and all that, but also collaborating with interior designers and architects and other levels of the team that help tell that story throughout other ways. So you really have this like legacy asset that speaks of a branded environment. Um, and there was just some sharing of best practices and knowing that like, wow, you believe that we do have value. This, you know, the first hotel we worked with this particular client, it was, "Wow, you hit a home run." The second uh, hotel was like, "Wow, you really hit a home run on that first one, but this is a grand slam." And it's like, why do we need as other people, we kind of need that like feedback of, okay, we're on the right track. But stay humble in that and keep it moving. So there were some foundational uh elements of like, okay, we do bring value of what we're doing, and maybe our price point is a little low, like, like with how much we're delivering of the value and deliverables. And so we, kind of stepped that up. But then I also pivoted here because I was like, all right, we have the Flamingo House members who are startup founders, and they don't really have the budget of, say, a autograph collection hotel. So a hotel who's paying maybe 75 grand, we want to help the small startup guy that maybe only has 3 to 12 grand, or in that mix. And so you're like, how can we, because it's the same process each time, no matter if you're trying to help the small startup guy and the big guy, how do we bridge that gap? And that's where the brand starter kit, the streamlining of the SaaS software that we came up with, of helped just help the small guy, but also um the idea is to help our workflow when we're working with these big clients on the same, it's the same process. It's like, okay, now we want to ask this question before this question because we've done this so many times. This would be more beneficial to ask it this way, and this will streamline it and get their team on the same page and not take months to figure out something, but more minutes. So there was just a lot of learnings there, and it started with, how do we bridge the gap of helping the small underdog out.
Well,
um
I appreciate that because I align, as a support local advocate and community builder. I certainly love supporting the dreamers, the doers, the passion pursuers, the creative entrepreneurs in their pursuit of their dream, their goal, their startup, or whatever it may be for them. And I appreciate you sharing the experience and the insight and the success that you've had reaching a level where you are doing autograph collection and Marriott hotels, because that is a pretty top tier. And it's I like to share these stories and these takeaways and these learning lessons with people because everybody started at zero, everybody started at the same pace, at the same place. um, but if you are genuine, if you're authentic, if you work hard, if you produce a good product, and if you stay true to yourself in your work, you too have the ability to reach that next echelon, that ilk, that Addy Award winning level, whatever the case may be. And I'm glad that you are still connected to that through the work that you do with the Flamingo House, where, as you just mentioned, you do support a lot of startups that are somewhat limited in their budget. They do need a space, as you did, to get out of the house so you don't have the dog barking in the background. And I know from some of my pre-pandemic memories, it was not always easy sailing
Mhm.
creating a co-working space and one of Boca's first co-working spaces. So could you share just a little bit of your learning lessons and experiences and the choices that you made in not only choosing that venture, but some of the things that you had to overcome and how you were able to navigate that ship?
Yeah, that's a great question. And there's some definitely fun times in that first location where we were this boho chic, raw industrial area, if you can imagine, bay doors and the occasional tiny creature coming through our way, or the flood of the hurricane that we're putting sandbags down by the bay door. And it was a cool spot. We have a very warehouse esque, but a lot of growing pains there. But it was fun. And we created the Flamingo House because we wanted to surround ourselves with a collaborative, creative bunch that were open minded, humble, hardworking, but had that balance as well. So that it was just a very uh, cool space to have that first founding flock per se, right? And then, like everyone's story, COVID was a very pivotal moment for most businesses, and we happened to it was a really good break point because our lease was up. We are I'd made the hard decision to put to close the business basically of at that moment, just to close the doors and, try to stay together as much as we could, digitally, but, I really do believe that we're in person, sort of humans, right? Very connecting digitally, but just that physical space really to bring us together. So I made the decision to close our doors there, with not renewing our lease, and then it took 2 years to find a new location. And where we are now is definitely a step up of a, a nicer, professional, more focused space office. You won't see the occasional tiny creature running around, but
Mm,
it's super, thoughtfully designed. We had our interior design team and this branded environment. So when you come in, it really is a thoughtful space. Like you're transported immediately to I'm not out of my home office, right? I'm not out of my barking dog and I have to put laundry and dishes away. I am in a creative space and I see other people on the phone and hustling and just really, like but still having, like, a life. I mean, co-working, feel like sometimes it's really 10:30 to 3:30 are, like, the busy times, and then everybody, finds balance in their day, which I think is great. Um, so yeah, there were some growing pains from the first to the second location, and then during that COVID time, I that was when I was really researching what is a there's a new tweak in the there's a tweak in the model that I feel like, um the pandemic taught us, and that's what I've been throwing myself in, to for the last couple years. Some more to come there, but I do believe that there's a little tweak of the co-working model, to what we're doing. I mean, we're very boutique, um, but we are, looking to do what is the next, stage look like, and, we also are looking at we're in talks to the next location as well. And so just some moving parts there with the co-working space and really fun growth items.
okay, and you definitely have put your own spin on it. It's definitely and kudos to you. Some fond memories that I recall. Being a woman led business. I know you've hosted multiple International Women's Days events with our friend and former Boca Raton resident Alexa Carlin. Uh, you've hosted
Alexa.
Creative Mornings. You've
Yes.
hosted. I vividly remember some of the art walks, some of the first art walks that you hosted in that back alleyway with fond memories. And actually, I just thought of this the other day. I just had my last meet the author event at Amanda Perna's space, and Amanda
Yes.
Perna and I went to middle school together. I hadn't seen her in 20 years, and I ran into her
Oh
at the
yeah.
Flamingo House.
Yeah.
And
Love
that's one
it.
of the beautiful things about co-working and these spaces. And there's a sign in the bathroom, or there was a sign in the bathroom at the old general provision where it listed the amount of quote unquote creative collisions that have happened just by putting people in a space and allowing them to kind of run into one another. What were some of your what were some of your favorite takeaways? What were some of the maybe better success stories or more fonder moments? I know we talked about some of the not so fond moments and having to close and pivoting, and that's the fact of life. But what were some of those key takeaways maybe from that Flamingo House experience for you?
Yeah, I love what you said about general provision and the creative collisions, because that is very much what my most fond memories are, which is during the art walks, during these member only events or other public events like creative mornings and such, and just working out of a co-working space. We've said this many times, but like flock then fly in the Flamingo House, the whole mantra philosophy is to outgrow us actually, to move on. And there's so many stories that are like, a couple that you mentioned, oh gosh, and then I ran into that person. That's how I met them at your art walk, and now we're doing business together, or now we're doing a tech startup, and some of the other memories are former members who started with 2 employees and now have 15. That's a really cool, where are they now? Like, it's great to hear how successful and how really something bigger than what we initially thought opening our doors happened. And it, like you just said, a creative collision, a combustion of this collaboration. It really isn't just a punchline. It is real flesh happening, and it's beautiful to see.
And it is a real thing, and if you want to experience it, I'm super grateful that Amber and the Flamingo House has made the space available for our next upcoming Meet the Author event, where myself, Evan Snow, will not just
Yay!
I'm not just going there to sign the book. I share a little bit of my story in a compressed version. I read a small passage from the book, whatever really aligns with the group. I make myself available for Q&A. And the whole thing for me with this whole book process, it's not just me going around telling you what we created, but I made a series of choices, stepping outside of my comfort zone that allowed me to unlock my hidden potential and change the course of my life, community, world, art world, and beyond. And I'd like to truly think if I was just a regular Johnny 9 to 5 recruiter sitting at a desk, working a regular job, and I was able to, achieve the things I've been able to achieve and impact the people's lives that I've been able to impact, then anybody can make a difference in the world, in their community, whatever their thing is, if it's art, if it's film, if it's advertising, if it's co-working. So I like sharing these, and with the Meet the Author events, I like not only just sharing the story, but the learning lessons, because each chapter ends with a series of questions in the form of learning lessons that I pose back on the reader. So if you're interested in experiencing some of what we're talking about, you can feel free to join us for free on Friday, September the 15th at 12:30 at the Flamingo House. We're framing it as a lunch and learn event, so feel free to bring your lunch and come learn with us. And we're glad to do this. Amber hosts, some other really interesting events. What other events do you currently have on the calendar coming up at the Flamingo House that you would like to invite the public to?
We have a lot of public events we do, some coming up. Examples of that are yoga, pickleball. We are possibly teaming up with Flamingo Flea to bring back our art walks, which, when Florida isn't 96 degrees daily, we will have more events outside, like live music. We have this Keep It Acoustic event, which is pretty cool, but we got to wait for it to get a little cooler outside. We also have member only events like the massages, the member perks like that. We're looking more forward to the Friday, September 15th lunch and learn with you, and want to offer complimentary co working to those who will be there that day. Come early for the morning, stay for the lunch and learn, and stay after for complimentary co working that day. So excited about that.
Awesome. I appreciate that, and I'll make sure to add that to the Eventbrite page for those that might not have heard this or get a chance to hear this beforehand. That's a great offer. We appreciate that. Um, Another thing I like to kind of dive into on the podcast here, any recommendations that you have personally, professionally, things you do for your self care, mental health, well being. You've got a lot of irons in the fire. So, what are some things that somebody that might be looking up to somebody like yourself what are some of those things that you would recommend to an aspiring person out there?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple takeaways that I always kind of go back to home base with. And the first thing we're doing a daily, which is designing your own daily. What do you want your daily to look like, right? For us, it's surrounding ourselves with other boss people, very, putting ourselves in a very open minded environment and collaborative, creative environment. Also, having the tools, and if you don't have the tools, but get the tools. And I recently did some workshops to get some tools to get back to, instead of when you're in a car, you got to go to neutral before you can reverse, right? So if you're going forward, getting to neutral a little bit. We talk about being super positive, which sometimes if you're having a bad day, it's hard to get around that fluff, right? You want to be positive, totally. But getting there is getting to possibly neutral. And this comes from my mentor who's was Trevor Mowat. He wrote a book. He's a great guy and talks about neutrality and neutral thinking, listening to your intuition and your gut, and also speaking what you want to feel like, what you want to happen. There really is some beauty in the universe showing up for us, I believe. So those sort of few takeaways are some tools I work on of just you know how do you get neutral, right? Like how do you what are your routines, kind of slow your morning down a little bit, get present, and because we're wearing, like you said, many hats, so you're just we have a lot of balls in the air, so it's definitely having fun and flowing through that, finding your flow. I love uh the whole brain hacking of finding your flow, but and enjoying your time through that. But sometimes you just have to like get to neutral to really reset or go forward again or reverse, right? So those are just a few takeaways that I do. Maybe
Amen.
promote here.
Did you very humbly and subtly say your mentor is Trevor Noah?
Trevor Mowad. He's Trevor Noah
Ah,
is a great guy too. Trevor Mowad. He's a sports psychologist. He started a company with oh my gosh, the Seattle quarterback, Seahawk quarterback. What's his name?
Russell Wilson?
Yep, yep. They did a company together. But Trevor, very young guy, he actually passed away pretty recently, like last year, and he was a mentor of mine, sports psychologist, and talks about neutral thinking and it takes what it takes, and the best is yet ahead. Many He helped me with my sports psychology, get into neutral thinking, and it really changed my game. And then I took some of those learnings into my life. So yeah, he's great. Like you got to look him up. Trevor Mowad,
Yeah, no,
Moawad.
I did. I'm sorry for your loss. Looks to be a highly respected person. Seeing he did work with University of Alabama and Coach Nick Saban back from his days with the Miami Dolphins. And I it's actually lately the importance of having a mentor, and even seeking out mentorship actually was very present on the first podcast episode we did with our upcoming AAF Creative Zen speaker, Joel Gandara. But it's something that I think there's maybe there is a book on it, but I didn't read the book on how to ask for a mentor or how to give mentorship. What's the importance of mentorship? It's certainly had a profound impact on me, as I outline in the book. I I probably wouldn't be here if I didn't have a mentor that took an interest and a liking to me initially. Juan, that knew I had a love of TED Talks, that encouraged me to step outside my comfort zone, to take half the morning off one Friday morning of the month, to go to a monthly breakfast lecture series like Creative Zen, where I had my aha moment. And then fortunately, other people, Andrew, my business partner, and his mentorship, which has been instrumental in my growth and development personally and professionally, and just even like continual relationship building with those mentors. The best piece of advice that I always quote from Juan, and I'll say it till I'm blue in the face and sometimes need to remind myself, is you can't be everything to everyone. And
That's
slowing it
good.
down, putting it in neutral is a great reminder of that. And thankfully, the environment that you created at the Flamingo House does have opportunities for people to step away from the desk, have some bright colors, some bright lights, some fresh air. You're in downtown Boca, you could walk around and, explore a little bit. So I give you, kudos and credit for still incorporating that into your life, personally, professionally, and now incorporating that into others' lives that join you at the Flamingo House. If somebody wanted to find out more information about the Flamingo House, where can they find you guys on social media and the interwebs?
Yeah, at the Flamingo House is our Instagram handle. You'll probably see us on our socials skateboarding during a conference call. We're not in any corporate cubicle farm. We're far from it. So yeah, at the Flamingo House, theflamingohouse.com, and we have a YouTube as well. So yeah, it's fun to kind of watch and immerse yourself into the playful professional environment that we've created.
And they've also created some really cool offerings that are probably a little different than traditional co-working spaces. Could you just maybe give us a brief enlightenment on Social Bird membership and virtual mailbox and the hot desk?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, something that is craved usually at co-working spaces that are very immersed in the community, like 1909 General Provision and the Flamingo House, are is the Social Bird, we call it Social Bird membership, which is a virtual mailbox slash social membership, and you get your mailing address. You get some co-working, some hours of a conference room, and this plugged in community of creative professionals and hybrid remote workers that, like you said, we speak of in the many stories that it's not this like, oh, they're going to network, like it's very organic, and it's very a lot of overlay and synergy, and it's a beautiful thing that happens. So that's the best low hanging fruit of a membership to get plugged into, and that's 150 a month. And again, it gives you a mailing address. So if you are one of those people out there that don't want their clients to Google your address, which is maybe your house address, and you want to take it to a little bit more of a professional level there, getting a virtual mailbox social membership is key.
Amen. That's a great option. A lot of people, are new to the area and they're trying to, make friends, connections, fit in, find things to do. And that's another, really just thing that maybe we take for granted, being from here and living here for a long time. So I give you guys a lot of credit between the events, workshops, pickleball, yoga, massage days. You guys really are onto something there. So I hope and encourage you, the listener, to join us on September the 15th at 12:30. You could get there before and co-work for free. You could tell them the boss, Amber, said it's okay to do so. We're inviting you to do that. And then, we host a bunch of other free community events, primarily here in Broward County, where I'm born and raised from. We're still doing our monthly breakfast lecture series, our mini TED Talk that we host every second Friday morning of the month for free inside the Alvin Sherman Library on the campus of Nova Southeastern University, where I had my initial aha moment 7+ years ago, almost 8 years ago now, that led me down this path of arts, culture, and community building and creative entrepreneurship. So I pay it back and pay it forward to connect, engage, and inspire our creative community one Friday morning a month, because you never know who's going to be sitting there in the audience yearning for some inspiration if they know it or not. Um, we also are very excited. We recently relaunched an event that I made some of my best friends through and has impacted more lives than almost anything else I've done, with a goal setting accountability mini mastermind group called Axen Club. AXEN, it's action and Zen. It's a place where you can come with an idea, a goal, a startup, passion project, or none of those things, and neutral third party strangers that end up becoming your friends will help you accelerate and innovate your goal and concept for free. It's a tried and true method and process that we've developed. My dear friend Ian Delasco co-hosted with me after a man that we highly admire and respect, a former Creative Zen speaker, Ivan Dynamo de Jesus, started it now 10 years ago and has changed probably thousands of lives through this event. So that's Accent Club. It's every other Tuesday. We do it at Art in Oakland Park, which is Angela Rush's art studio in Oakland Park. Beautiful
I
event. And I would encourage you to come. I know we talked briefly at one of the last Creative Morning events I saw you about potentially doing one in Boca. It's certainly something we could explore for the future. Um, And then,
Absolutely.
other stuff you can find on my social media at evansnow13, at learning.to.choose on Instagram. I'm an open book. You can send me an email, evan at learningtochoose.com. Um, and,
I love Evan, I love what you just said about just you all the friends that we've met through events, some of the best events that you've thrown, through your art events, and what Accent Club sounds like is it's you're making friends, but it's accountability, and that is what's awesome. Like these ideation sessions, these brainstorms that break out with people that you get live feedback from. So I love the events that you just mentioned. I'm to check out the Accent Club.
I welcome you to check out Accent Club. It's absolutely phenomenal. Enid, the woman I mentioned, she spoke at Creative Mornings Fort Lauderdale. At the end of the talk, uh, her agency owner, who was supposed to speak, who didn't speak, who put her up to speak, asked her the first question and said, "What's next?" She blurted out, "I want to start a true storytelling series like The Moth." And I blurted out, "Come to Accent Club." It was literally right after the first one we had. And 5 months to the day after that event, she started something called Raw Storytelling, which ran for many years up until COVID. And it is our version of the month. It is a great event, and we will bring it back at some point. But yeah, beautiful things have come from that. So anything that sparked your interest, please don't hesitate to reach out. We're open books, regular people. Amber, I really appreciate you taking the time to sit down and share some of your story and insight with us. And I look forward to having you guys join us Friday, September the 15th at 12:30 p.m. at the Flamingo House in Boca Raton. You won't regret it.
Thanks, Ellen.
Thank you.